So let's talk about something different than rather persuasion. And it's such an important theme, it's such an important subject. I can really talk about this forever. I used to talk about it way more back in the day. Maybe I should talk about it a little bit more often and maybe I should deep down into the subject. But for sure, I am gonna allow myself the liberty of exploring just how important this is. This theme for everybody who's listening. What I'm talking about is stress, or actually, more precisely, how to eliminate stress and why it's important that you eliminate stress. I'm going to tell a story from way back in the workforce where I was working. Well, I'm not going to disclose, of course, the name of the company, the actual physical location, what I was doing, etc., etc. But I will just say that I was, quote, in air quotes, I was on the floor, at the bottom. One of them insignificant peasants, if you will. So I had a lot of middle managers to report to. I had directors, etc. And one of those middle managers was like this walking. Actually, now that I think about it, I wanted to talk about one, but there was actually two middle managers. Two middle managers in specific, or in particular, that I remember. I worked with them at different sites. Just so we're clear about that. Now, both of these guys were like these walking encyclopedias. They were like these walking bodies of knowledge. They knew everything, especially the details, especially the particulars. They were like these oracles, effectively. You can ask them everything. If AI was a thing way back then, they would have been like the human version of Grok or ChatGPT. Like you just ask them something and they're like blurting out an answer. Like super, super knowledgeable guys. They would stay up late. They would arrive early. They would work long hours. Both of them were married. Both of them had kids, at the very least 2 kids, maybe 3 kids. And I think both of them also had like other commitments outside of their job. So they really didn't have much time, to themselves. And I'm telling you, I watched as both of these men gradually developed bags under their eyes, wrinkles in their face, in their forehead, like I have, way more wrinkles underneath their eyes, elsewhere in their face, their hairline receding, their hair getting more and more gray, and they both started looking more and more tired, like visibly tired. And also, they looked significantly older than what they really were. Both of them must have been in their late 30s, like let's say 37, 38. They looked like they could have been 10 years older, like at the end of their 40s. No joke. I mean, I'm older now than what they were when I first met them. And I'm telling you, I look way younger than what they did. I'm not going to sit around and brag and boast about me looking young. I probably don't. I probably look exactly my age, which is fine. I don't know. You be the judge. I can say for sure. Here's what I can say. I look way younger now than what they did when they were younger than me at that point. And so how they look like now, I don't know. They probably look like they're in their 80s or something. And that's precisely my point. Because these people, or these two middle managers, had to endure so much stress. They, because of their position, because of the expected work hours, because of the expected work tasks, and because of the general The general work culture in the environment that I frequented way back then, because of how it was structured, that sort of position, the middle management position, was like the worst of the worst. Because you're not on the bottom, you're certainly not on top, but you're in the middle. And so every time there's a problem on the bottom, they people like me way back then had to walk to our boss and complain and ask for help and so on. And every time there's a problem on top, they want to just push it down and have some of their, I'm not going to use the word slaves, but some of their, well, I don't know which word to use really. Some of their minions do the dirty work. The point is, if you're in the middle, you get shit from below and above. And I saw that in real time. And I saw more of these people actually accepting such a job. Almost like they enjoyed it. Now, granted, they probably made more money than I did in my position at that time. Probably. But for what purpose? They were deteriorating their health. They were assuming so much responsibility. It had guaranteed an effect on their social relations, their parental efforts, their spouse and their marriage, all the other commitments outside of their job, and also their actual commitments at the job. On two separate occasions, actually, I was on the receiving end of them doing something wrong. I'm not going to go into details as of what they did, but let's just say that both of them did something that they shouldn't have done, and I had to suffer as a consequence for it. And so these were tiny little mistakes that could have been avoided entirely had they just paused and thought things through. Again, I'm not going to undisclose why or how or when or what, because it doesn't really matter. Here's what matters, though. If they probably eliminated some of their stress and paused it for a second and just thought, then they could have avoided getting into these really embarrassing positions, because both of them had to apologize to me and saying, look, I was wrong about X, Y, and Z. I don't know why I did how I reacted the way I reacted and why I did what I did. But I was wrong. Now, there's nothing wrong with admitting that you're wrong. I do that all the time. And nobody apologizes more for their errors than what I do, certainly. But I seek out the apology in advance. And I'm like, I lead by apologies in the way that, look, I'm sorry if I have this wrong, but X, Y, and Z. See, that's what you have to do when you're not sure. I mean, except for a couple of universal truths, like 1 + 1 always being 2, and that 8+ hours of sleep will improve your life and your health. We all will make mistakes. Probably tomorrow I will make some sort of mistake, and maybe I'll have to apologize for it, and that's fine. But when I do so, I lead with the apology, and I don't pretend like it was my fault, and I don't try and hide it, and I certainly don't try and defend it, which is what I completely forgot and I left out. I apologize for that, by the way, no pun intended. But these people, these two middle managers, would recognize that an error had been made, and they would fail to assume responsibility for it, and they would therefore blame somebody else when it was entirely their fault. Now, that doesn't matter really. Here's just what matters. Both of their work ethics and either one of their work ethic and culture in their job caused them massive stress. And also, of course, the fact that they had to play this silly game of pretending like they didn't make any mistake when it was clear that they were the culprit. They were the delinquent. They were the guilty party. And if you pretend like you haven't made a mistake, if you pretend that the mistake that you did is the error of someone else, that also will inflict a lot of stress in your life. That's just a fact. Anyway, long story short, persuade yourself to sleep well, eliminate stress, eat healthy, train, go outside. How does eliminate stress look like? Well, eliminate toxic people, energy vampires, eliminate commitments, eliminate habits. Maybe you should even change your workplaces. Who knows? Only you know. Find out what causes stress in your life and then remove it. That is the simple, not saying it's easy, but it's the simple solution to dealing with stress in your life. If you want to learn more about to some degree, stress elimination, I guess, but also persuasion, then get subscribed to my email list. The link to do so is in the episode description wherever you're watching and or listening to this, and I'll see you there.